Well, welcome back, traveler. Find yourself a warm spot near the fire. Make yourself cozy and settle in. Today, we are talking about collectors, content creators, and fans alike feeling trapped in horror. Horror. You love it, I love it, we all love it. People produce content for it on the daily and the nightly. And you know what? I've had this conversation quite a bit with other people, and it was time that we had this conversation and really discuss some of the behind the scenes of this, what a lot of these content creators go through, what I pick up from some of their live streams, and what I've been told personally. I think where it starts is right here with this idea of people getting locked into this idea of having to be exclusively into horror. Now, I've not only seen this with content creators, which I'm going to talk about shortly, but I've seen this actually with fans, people that go to horror conventions, but then when they go to MegaCon, it actually feels like some kind of strange thing for them. I love horror just as much as you do, okay? Action, sci-fi, and horror are my three favorite genres. I've said that since I was a little kid. I say that now, and that means I haven't matured a bit. So I am just an immature imbecile telling you all of this. But regardless, here's what I'm going to tell you. There is horror fatigue from certain content creators. We know this because I could name names. I don't know if that's nice to do, but I'm fans of these people. I watch their stuff. We all watch them. If I mentioned who they were, you'd go, oh yeah, I'm subscribed to them just as I am. Here's the thing. Typically, you'll notice this when they get after end of the year, into November, December, especially after Halloween goes by, people get so horrored out, and that's okay. I wouldn't expect somebody to just watch one genre of film their entire life. And there's a hesitancy I've heard from some of these content creators to dive into something else. Maybe they want to talk about Cobra, the Stallone movie, or they want to talk about some goofy 90s cheese like Street Fighter with Jean-Claude Van Damme, but they're afraid to because their audience is expecting horror. One thing I've found, you can do this and your audience doesn't abandon you. They know that you are into film. That's why you're talking about horror movies all of the time. So it's okay to dip into these other genres. And if you want to tippy toe into them, do comedy horror if you haven't already. Something that barely fits the mold, but maybe could be seen as leaning into it a little bit. And I think you'll be perfectly fine. And that's not me trying to be a consultant to these channels. No. It's just a conversation based on observation that I've done. If somebody wants to review Last Action Hero, but they're primarily doing horror, go for it. Nobody's gonna smash the unsubscribe button and jump out of there just because you did that. But I do understand there are certain channels that maybe don't focus so much on horror icons or horror Blu-rays and new movies coming out in the genre, that maybe they're focused on another angle of it, whatever that might be, and they are locked in and there's really nowhere that they can go. I feel for you, and there's not a whole lot of wiggle room for that necessarily. Maybe kind of tiptoe into something else a little bit different, or start another channel if you have a big enough following where you can do that. Maybe even do some appearances on the outside. Again, I'm not here to provide consulting services. I'm just having these conversations that I've had off camera with other people for how this could be done. Now, I'm gonna take this to a more personal point of view. I will say that as I'm watching horror movies on and off throughout the year, I do feel the same way once October has passed. As so many people have said before, that when you get to November and December and January, there really is that part of you that just wants to throw on like a Captain Ron or something like that, wash it out. And that's perfectly natural. Imagine if you only listened to one band your entire life. I mean, I'm sure there's people that just like exclusively listen to Iron Maiden or something like that. But after a while, you do need to kind of, expand your tastes a little bit, and that's okay. I think that, there's a reason why you have Shout Factory, and then over here you have Scream Factory. You're kind of going two different directions here without really compromising your integrity or the audience. I think it's okay to have more interests other than horror, is what I'm saying. There's also been movies that horror fans really latch onto and appreciate that maybe aren't necessarily that genre, but they have the same aesthetics. The music sounds similar. How many horror fans do you know that love Escape from New York? pretty much everyone I've met. And if you look at Escape from New York, I've talked to people that have said, yeah, it kind of feels like a zombie movie without zombies. Very interesting take. I never thought that when I first saw it as a kid at 9 or 10 years old, but it's true. And even though John Carpenter's seeing it through the lens of a Western, when you take his synth score and you take the cinematography, all of it being set at night in this abandoned town with Snake walking around, not knowing what's going to be the threat around the corner, people moving off in the distance in the background, and you're not really sure, are they friend or foe? I can see why somebody might think, hey, this is shot and filmed like a zombie film. It definitely has that vibe to it. So there are plenty of ways to love horror, focus primarily on horror, whether, again, you're a content creator or just a fan, but then also move into these other territories. It's okay. And at the end of the day, this is not a serious thing. There's so many huge things and wars and whatnot in the world that this is just silly at the end of the day. But that's okay. You know, I like having these conversations because we're all on here. We're all consuming a lot of the same content, the same people. We have a lot of the same interests. And sometimes this stuff just comes out. You observe these things. You know, you kind of have some thoughts that you're formulating on it and you share it with some friends like, hey, I noticed that one person that we're all subscribed to made some comment recently on their 2-hour live stream about how they wish they didn't have to do horror all the time. It's not in any of their main videos, it's not in their long form content, but those of us who heard it, we heard it loud and clear. And I would just say go for it. Absolutely. Talk about Terminator 2. You know, go for some cheesy family movie from the 90s like Surf Ninjas. Go for it. I want that. And a lot of people I know, even those that run horror related channels, have said the same thing. So we're all there, we're here for it. And that doesn't mean the horror is compromised. I've even thought about that on my own channel, is what is the balance? Is it 60% horror, 40% other genres? Or is it the other way around? And at the end of the day, I think as long as I follow the path that I want to take on here and talk about what I'm genuinely interested in, typically it doesn't matter. And I've never had anybody come in and be like, hey man, I like what you're doing, but you know, you need to take it back to the horror a little bit. I've never had a single person tell me that. I've had feedback on other things. Hey, this needs to be snappier over here. You should focus on that. Oh, maybe, you know, I remember once there was a time where I was doing some Disney videos and I was like, I'm not really a Disney adult, or I'm not some fanatic. And that might be coming across like I am, because I just had 3 Disney videos drop in like 2 months or whatever, and people kind of got the wrong impression. That I understand. When it comes to horror, I think we should just, you gotta have fun with it. And if you're at the point where it's not fun or it feels like work, that's when I would encourage, whether as a collector, just as a fan, or a content creator, that's when we take a step back and kind of examine ourselves and say, hey, if I'm doing this, maybe it's not genuine. So that's where I've come down on. The whole topic of this is do whatever feels right to you. If that's not resonating with where you're at right now, then give horror, let it take a back seat. If it is exactly where you're at, jump right in. All right, horror fans, let me know what you think, because I'm curious to hear your feedback on this. And if you've experienced the same thing that I've had in conversations with people, this is the first time I'm having it here with you guys. So leave a comment, tell me what you think. Have you ran into this yourself? Again, as a viewer, as a collector, as a content creator even, sound off below. And most of you already know the drill, but for those who don't, make sure to smash that notification bell, like, comment, and subscribe so you can stay inside the mind of a movie maniac.